Hello and welcome back to another fantasy football video. Hope you're all doing well. Now is a very quick turnaround between game week 11 and 12, and today we're going to be focusing on players that you could potentially be bringing in ahead of that game week 12 deadline. Now, many of you, like me, will be considering taking a -4 to bring some more players in so that you can get that full 11. Now, it is effectively only a -2 this game week, so I'm going to be taking that into consideration when taking a look at these players as to whether they are also actually worth a -4 as well. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you are new around here, and let's get straight on into this one. Now, the first player that we are taking a look at for this game week is Mohamed Salah of Liverpool. Salah has not been as good as previous seasons going forward, and that kind of shows in his goals and assists, only picking up 3 goals and 4 assists thus far this season. That has mainly been due to the fact that he's been playing really far out on that right-hand side, really pushing out almost towards the touchline. It showed in the Arsenal game. He's only picked up 1 touch inside the box. There are some big positives, though, for Salah going into game week 12. In the Manchester City game, due to some tactical changes and really almost Jurgen Klopp's hand was forced a bit with the injuries that Liverpool have had, Salah was pushed into more of that kind of number 9 striking position. Now, you can see there from his heat map, that was exactly the case. He's come a lot more central and is the most far forward player for Liverpool on the pitch, with Bobby Firmino dropping in behind to collect the ball and play the ball through to Salah. This was very evident in the Manchester City game, with him getting 2 very clear-cut opportunities and managing to spin Cancelo and tuck the ball past Ederson for one of them. I would say for me that Salah is well worth captaining this week as well, arguably the best captain for this game week. The other captaincy option that you may be thinking of is Harry Kane for Spurs. Now, Spurs play against Manchester United away and Salah plays against West Ham at home. The West Ham at home fixture is the better of the two for me. Kane has been more consistent throughout the season. He's only blanked in 1 game thus far, so if you're looking for consistency, Kane may be the guy to go to. But in terms of explosion, in terms of a player that can haul, I feel like Salah is the guy to go for. Salah obviously on penalties as well, as we do know, makes him a decent FPL option as well. He also has good fixtures up until the World Cup, so I feel like if you bring him in this game week, then it's just a nice little hold up until the World Cup. And he also gives you another captaincy option now that Haaland has had his first blank. Some people may be looking towards that game week 13, Nottingham Forest away, and thinking, you know what, I actually fancy Salah for that game. Salah's expected goal involvement comes in at 0.76, which is pretty decent. It's not quite up there with Haaland. However, I feel like over the coming game week, Salah can really push on and potentially get some more goals as well. Now, is Salah worth a -4? If you are bringing him in to captain him, then most definitely, because even if he gets 2 points, you've effectively got yourself a 0 pointer. You've cancelled out those points. I do think that Salah can get some attacking returns in this game. And if you're bringing him in for a -4, I'm not going to captain him. I still think that could be potentially worth it. I can see Liverpool picking up a clean sheet in that game, so that's effectively 3 points. So at that point, you're only a -1, and then you need Salah just to pick up an assist or a goal, and you're absolutely flying. So for me, Salah well worth bringing in this game week. Now, the next player we are looking at is Leandro Trossard of Brighton, a player that has been very exciting thus far this season. He's not been incredibly consistent, but he has scored goals in sort of sporadic periods, which we've seen in previous seasons, picking up a hat-trick and a brace in across a couple of games. Scoring 56 points so far this season. He's actually leading Salah by 3 points. And you may be thinking, well, if you're considering captaining Salah, then why not Trossard? He arguably has the best fixture for this coming game, playing against Nottingham Forest at home. Forest, a side that have really struggled to keep clean sheets this season and with one of the worst defensive records. Trossard, as you can see from that heat map, getting himself very far forward, not quite as central as Pascal Gross, the number 13. However, there is some news coming out from Brighton that Lallana will start, and it makes the most sense for me that Lallana takes Pascal Gross's position as they play in a very similar way. If you were to take Trossard out of that team, you get less attacking runs in behind and less creativity as well. So I can't really see Trossard getting benched. He did come off early in the Brentford game. However, that was straight after Ivan Toney banged that second goal. I was watching the first half and I thought that Trossard did look lively, and I feel like that substitution will most likely have been just with a little eye on this game. coming up in the midweek against Forest. Now, I guess the main question, as with all of these, is Trossard worth a -4? I myself am looking at the potential punt of Trossard on a -4. As with Salah, I think that Brighton are going to be keeping a clean sheet in this game, so that is effectively only a -1 if Trossard does pick up the 3 points. Is he going to score or pick up an attacking return? I can see it in this game. He is Brighton's most threatening player, scored 5 goals and assisted 1 so far this season, and so for me, I think that he is worth the -4. Obviously, it just depends on your risk aversion. If you're someone like me who maybe in these game weeks wants to just take a little bit of a punt, a little bit of a risk, then I feel like Trossard could be the guy to go for. If you want to play it a little bit safer, then I'd say don't take the -4. Trossard is a one week punt, as you can see there. He has a very good game week 14, arguably the best, but then after that he plays against Manchester City away and then Chelsea at home. 2 games that I wouldn't necessarily expect him to score in. So I feel like if you're bringing in Trossard, you're most likely going to be transferring him out in game week 14, or at least benching him in game week 14 for that Manchester City away fixture. So we're very much looking at more of a kind of tunnel vision sense with Trossard to do with game week 14, as I think that he is one of the players that could score you big points for this one game week. Now, the third player that we're taking a look at is Joachim Anderson of Crystal Palace. Now, there's a lot of debate over whether Anderson or Guéhi are the better option. A lot of people jumping on the Crystal Palace assets due to the fixtures they have. As you can see, their run of fixtures there is very tidy indeed, playing against Wolves, Everton and Southampton. 3 fixtures in which you can see them picking up clean sheets. Now, if you need that 0.2, then Guéhi is clearly the better option out of the 2. I do feel, though, that a lot of you, like myself, will have a bit of money in the bank. I've seen some people on Twitter, I've seen some people have, 3-4 million in the bank. So at that point, is 0.2 really that big of a deal to you? You may as well pick the better option out of the 2. Now, Anderson has played 1 less game than Guéhi, but has accumulated 9 more points. That is a combination of bonus points and goals scored. Picking up 26 points so far this season, we see that his XG is 0.13 and his expected assist is 0.07. That means he's basically expecting an attacking return every 1 in 5 games. He's only got 1 attacking return so far this season, and Crystal Palace are coming up to their 10th game. So could that mean that he ends up grabbing a goal or assist against Wolves? Personally, I'm actually thinking of -4ing him in for this game. I just have a little feeling that he is going to score. Obviously, that's not really great analysis, but sometimes in FPL, you've got to play with your gut. You can see from the heat map there, he's slightly more forward than Guéhi, and a lot of the creativity for Crystal Palace comes from the back, comes from Guéhi and Anderson. Anderson hitting those long through balls over to Wilfried Zaha, and if you do have Zaha, actually Anderson could be a nice little combination, as Anderson, as I say, is the one pinging the ball out wide for him, and he could easily ping the ball over to him and Wilf go through and score. But I guess the main thing about defenders is, are they going to keep a clean sheet? As you can see there, Palace expected to concede 1.53 goals in each game. Now, that is not the best defensive record. It's actually one of the worst defensive records in the Premier League. With that being said, they are playing against one of the worst attacks in the Premier League against Wolves. The last open play goal that Wolves scored was in game week 6. Since then, they've only managed 1 goal, and that was a Ruben Neves penalty on the weekend against Forest. That is kind of telling of how poor Wolves have been. They've only just managed to scrape a win against Forest, who have been one of the worst defensive sides in the league so far. So I'm very much expecting that Palace are going to be picking up a clean sheet in this game. And for me, Joachim Anderson is the one. Although he's 0.2 million more expensive, I like the attacking threat and I like the bonus points that Anderson does provide. Now, is he worth a -4? As I mentioned, I'm potentially thinking of bringing him in myself for a -4. Would I advise that for you? I mean, potentially. I think he's going to score, but that would be very lucky. Is he going to keep a clean sheet? I think there's a high likelihood. So it basically just depends how risky you are feeling. If Wolves do end up scoring 2, then that is a -1 for Anderson, which means you're going to end up with -3, which is not ideal. So I'd probably advise for a risk-averse person not to take this, because defenders on a -4 aren't that great of an option to take, because you do have sort of a couple of avenues there with yellow cards and goals conceded that you could actually end up fully paying the price for that minus. The fourth player that we are looking at is Dominic Solanke of Bournemouth, a man that has been on fire in the past 2 game weeks, getting 8 and 12 points respectively. Bournemouth, the only side that have gone unbeaten since Scott Parker's sacking, and Dominic Solanke has been a big part of that. As you can see from that heat map, he's getting really far forward as the number 9 and playing very central as well, as you would expect from a striker. Bournemouth haven't yet picked up a penalty. However, I'm pretty sure that Solanke would be taking them for 5.8 million. A player on form, a player on penalties, he could be a good go-to option. I would say though that Bournemouth's fixtures do turn a little bit, as you can see there, playing against West Ham and Tottenham in game week 13 and 14. Game week 12, I feel like he's an okay punt, but maybe only if you are free hitting. I feel like for Solanke, he may have already scored his points for this run up until the World Cup, and therefore I would only be bringing him in if you really need him in terms of the price point that he is at. I feel like Mitrovic or Tony, if you can afford them, are much better options to go throughout until the World Cup. With that being said, he could easily go and bag a goal in game week 12 against Southampton at home. It's quite a nice fixture against a side who haven't been too great defensively so far this season. I feel like what I'm saying with regards to, he's already scored his point is sort of backed up by his expected goals and expected assists. As you can see there, expected goals at 0.17, expected assists at 0.16. So he's effectively expected a goal return in 1 in every 3 games. He's picked himself up 4 attacking returns in the last 2 games, which is, well above his expected. But I guess it's just the argument of, is he outperforming his stats like Jamie Vardy has in the past? Although his expected goals is low, he just keeps on banging the ball in the back of the net. Now, the question with Solanke, like the other guys, would I -4 him in? I think for me, Solanke, I would only be bringing in on a -4 if it allows you to bring in Salah and captain him. Other than that, it's a free transfer move, especially with the fixtures that Bournemouth do have. Finally, we're looking at Timothy Castagne of Leicester, a man that has got 8, 7 and 6 points in the last 3 game weeks respectively, a guy that is very much on form at the minute. You can see here from those fixtures, playing against Leeds and Wolves, 2 fixtures that you could probably expect them to be keeping a clean sheet in. Now, Leeds have been much more defensively solid under Jesse Marsch, but have been really lacking that kind of cutting edge up front. Patrick Bamford starting to come back into the fray and looking a little bit better going forward. Did miss that penalty against Arsenal, though. You can see there from that heat map that Castagne is getting quite far forward up on that right hand side for Leicester, and we can probably expect that he will get some kind of attacking return. Now, with that being said, Leicester still do have one of the worst defensive records so far this season, and I wouldn't necessarily be backing him to keep a clean sheet. If you do feel like a punt of 4.4 million, he's a player that is good for the bonus points and could easily rack you up sort of 7 or 8 points. Would I be minusing him in? Probably not, with the potential that Leicester do have to concede. In previous game weeks, they've conceded, not too long ago, they were conceding sort of 5-6 goals in a game. And if you -4 him in, if they concede 6 goals, I can't see that happen necessarily, but say if they did, that's -3 points. So you'd actually end up on a -5. So Castagne, I'd only be looking at if you do have a free transfer and fancy a punt. So I hope you have enjoyed this quick little look ahead to Game Week 12. A couple of players that I feel like could get you some points and could also be good going on until the World Cup. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you are new around here. It really does help me out. Comment below the players that you're thinking of bringing in, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.